To my dear friends who are the true believers in Ron Paul, I admire the work that you've done for liberty, the work that you've done spreading the message of liberty. I know it isn't easy. I know because I've spent hundreds of dollars and hundreds of hours working with you. We've worked hard, and no matter what happens in this election, we have lit a fire that is going to be very difficult to extinguish. The question that remains at this point is what now to do with it. It is currently undeniable that Ron Paul has lost the Republican presidential primary. If you are still unwilling to accept that, then you go ahead and wait for Tampa to prove you wrong. But those of us who can add and subtract have known it for quite some time. Okay, the Ron Paul campaign has said it. As we know now, Rand Paul has endorsed Mitt Romney. It's over with, okay? You can vote for him, you can donate money to him, you can do whatever you want, but he's not going to win the Republican presidential primary. It's over. He's not going to run as an independent candidate. It's done with, okay? And you should be grateful that he's going to lose the nomination, because there are really only a few possible outcomes if he had won it, okay? One of them is simply Ron Paul wins, sticks to his guns, tries to make radical changes to our system of government, the result of which would be the banking, military, and other special interests dependent upon the system conspiring against him, creating economic catastrophe, perhaps even false flag terrorist attacks. The far left, the far right, both party establishments, and the witless, oblivious masses of the mindless media zombie center find themselves united against him politically. He is unable to get anything through Congress to combat the forces working against him. Calamity ensues. Freedom is made the scapegoat, and the 2016 presidential candidate makes Barack Obama look like Thomas fucking Jefferson. Another possibility is Ron Paul wins, tries to end the Fed, gets assassinated, like everybody else who goes against the bank. Ron Paul wins, changes his tune completely, continues the wars and spending, blames Congress, and things continue on as they have. And finally, Ron Paul wins, manages to reduce the size and scope of government, maybe even gets a second term. Markets are freed up, economy recovers, massive amounts of wealth are created, people regain confidence in statism, governments see lots of wealth, takes it, expands itself, leading to new wars, new social programs, and an ever more advanced state. Try again in 200 fucking years. I don't think that we want any of that. Now, I've been listening more and more to a guy named Stefan Molyneux, and he makes a very interesting point about the dangers of minarchy, okay? That it is perhaps the most dangerous form of government ever created. You know, and the American Republic was clearly the best example of this theory of small, limited government, right? It was designed by men who, however flawed, really were brilliant, and they had an excellent grasp of history, and they most certainly designed a government as close to perfect as the world had ever seen. Small, divided, representative, with hard limits written in a constitution. But all governments grow. That is their design. That's what governments do. Our government, the smallest, least intrusive, most limited one in human history ever, has grown into the biggest, most powerful, most destructive and invasive force that man has ever known. I really want you to think about this and understand it. The best government ever created now threatens the entire planet and has weapons that could destroy the world dozens of times over. It owes somewhere in the realm of $16 trillion. It has some of the highest taxes on the planet. Its currency manipulates markets on a planetary scale and making the poorest people in the poorest countries even poorer. It wages wars in perpetuity. I mean, this, my friends, this is the outcome of your Constitution. You know, the Constitution was either designed to do this or was completely incapable of preventing it. In either case, here we find ourselves, economy in shambles, wars and rumors of wars, militarized police forces, domestic spying, an education system that indoctrinates youth to unquestioning obedience to arbitrary authority, and all the rest. I mean, yes, this, my friends, is your Constitution at work. Its restoration can only be an exercise in repetitive failure. I mean, minarchy creates the illusion of a free market, okay? The force of the state is still there, but it kind of camps out in the background while the people are free to create wealth. Once that wealth is created, the state comes out of hiding and does what the state does best. It grows, it expands itself, it plunders the wealth of the people it claims to own and turns them against each other with threats and promises that are equally absurd. And it lies and it cheats and it steals and it kidnaps and it kills, all while blaming one group or another for the problems that it creates as you scurry to and from the voting booths, giving it your approval, donating your time and your money to men who would be your masters and jail or kill you for bidding defiance thereto. All right, I don't think that we want any of this, but this has happened hundreds of times, and if something drastically is not done different, then it will happen hundreds of times more. That we have thousands of years of history that shows us that these systems fail. I mean, what improvement can be made to such a system? What legitimacy could be lent to such a plot? I mean, in the end, all that separates me from an agent of the state is one stupid fucking thing: the legitimized initiation of force. Okay? If you decided to kidnap your neighbor or take half his shit to fund your noble project, just because you did not approve of his actions, no society would tolerate it, okay? Any state society would see you jailed yourself. A stateless society would see you ostracized or killed. It is unacceptable behavior. All of us know it, and nobody who I would call friend would ever do such a thing, okay? But, hey, write a document, let the people choose who their thieves, kidnappers, and murderers will be, give them a costume and a badge and a fancy hat, and somehow all is well with the world. Give me a fucking break. Look, if you believe as I do that Ron Paul is a good man, I really do think that he is. I think he's a good guy. How could you expect him to manage such a thing? How could you expect him to handle the inevitable retaliations we'll soon face from the families of the millions of people this government has murdered, tortured, and caged? When they come for their revenge, and let there be no doubt in your mind that they will, would Ron Paul sit back and tolerate their attacks, or would he not be compelled to go back on in and begin killing again? Are your political goals so noble that they justify more war and death? Is that the case? But fear not, folks, because Ron Paul is in no danger of winning this election. We will have the luxury of knowing that we fought the good fight and never have to suffer the trauma of seeing what horrors statism has created with our help and consent. But now begs the question, what to do with this momentum? There are some pretty influential people listening to this right now, and I want you to ask yourselves, how will your influence be wielded? Will you continue the dance of politics, convinced that despite all overwhelming evidence that a system based on coercive force can be made kinder and gentler, and will you advise people to spend their valuable time and resources on your delusions? After your next failure, will you repeat the same mistake over and over and over again until you die? And when you die, will you do so still deluding yourself that some fictional God will reward you in some fictional afterlife for perpetuating a system of theft, violence, oppression, fraud, and murder? Is that what you want? Or will you finally turn your head and see the gun pressed against its temple? Will you finally recognize that by lending legitimacy to the system that you have blood on your hands? Will you for once take a step back and observe from outside your paradigm the absurdity of a system claiming to protect persons and property by claiming the monopolistic authority to destroy persons and property? I mean, does that make a whole lot of fucking sense to you, folks? Your government is not malfunctioning. This is its design. It does not require better leaders. It requires abolition and nothing short thereof. You might think it impossible, but I'm here to tell you that it is inevitable. The only questions that remain are what your role in history will be and how many generations will suffer through it. I've made my choice. On my watch, this will be the last generation that suffers through global statism. I will fight to my last breath to see a free society established, even if only one small place. And that small place will show the world what humanity unrestrained is truly capable of. You can be a part of this. You should be a part of this. The Ron Paul campaign was your training. It is now time for you to fight the real fight. Today, right now, as you hear my voice, cease to recognize the legitimacy of the state. See it for what it is: foreign, dangerous, immoral, unjust, and most importantly, false. I mean, what is a government? What is the state? Is it a document? Is it a building? Is it a person? A group of people? It doesn't even exist. It's a figment of your fucking imagination. It's a fiction. It's just one more false religion. All these people in funny outfits and oddly shaped buildings and tacky fucking lights on their cars, like all they need now are subwoofers and hydraulic shocks. I mean, what the fuck are we doing accepting that they use guns to order us around and travel around the world killing strangers who can barely afford to feed their fucking families? They're going to come halfway around the world and take our freedom away, and we get to have all this for the bargain price of half my shit. And by the way, your kids owe $16 trillion. What? Are you out of your fucking minds? Why are we still taking this seriously? Reject it. Renounce it. Are you still sitting there wondering if I'm the crazy one here? They took over the airports, and now they touch your tits and balls, and now they go take over the internet, and well, that should be fun. What are we in a half a dozen wars now? I lost count, man. These maniacs go to war with Iran and North Korea because we have to protect Israel, who spies on us more than any foreign government, and to do that we have to borrow money from the communists who we thought were going to end the world 30 fucking years ago. And what's this we shit anyway? I didn't sign up for any of this crap. You're the ones who want to run around the world overthrowing elected governments while screaming about democracy in the land of the free, which just so happens to have the highest incarceration rate in all of human history. I just want to make money, drink whiskey, fuck pretty girls. I don't think that puts you and me on the same team, Mr. Statist. I mean, what's it going to take, folks? You still want me to tell you about a social contract that I didn't sign? This social contract that makes me liable for theft and kidnapping and murder? I don't know. Even if you stretch the definition of contract that much, that contract sounds rather antisocial to me. What's next? You want to quote Thomas Jefferson and tell me about how he didn't rape his slave? It doesn't matter who you call your master so long as you accept that you have a master. You're a slave. So just stop. Stop trying to convince yourself that someone pointing a gun at you at all the times is necessary. Why do you want to live this way? Why are you so convinced that we require some violent authority figure stealing your money so he can go kill strangers halfway around the world and tell your neighbors not to cross some arbitrary geopolitical boundary that you call a sovereign border? You don't need any of this crap. You're fine on your own. You think anarchy can't work? Your whole life is anarchy. Every time you didn't resort to violence to deal with a situation, that was anarchy. You paid your bills, you bought some groceries, you settled an argument without assaulting someone? Welcome to anarchy. You just have to be a peaceful person. What's the fucking issue?